Hey everyone, welcome back to more Dead Stuff. Today we're diving deep into the dark and fascinating history of one of the most iconic figures in mythology and pop culture, the Grim Reaper. So this video is going to be kind of like an essay type video, just some information, cool information, just a cool subject, and I'm going to try to be doing several of these videos, essay type videos, just informational, just something to discuss. Topics I hope you find fascinating as well and want to discuss in the comments, so I hope to see you there. So the Grim Reaper, from its ancient roots to its modern day interpretations, will explore how the Reaper has evolved and why it continues to capture our imaginations. So grab your scythe and let's take a walk with death. The concept of death as a personified figure stretches back thousands of years. It goes way back. Ancient cultures often had deities or spirits associated with death and the afterlife. For example, the Greeks had Thanatos, a winged spirit of peaceful death, while the Egyptians had Anubis, the jackal-headed god who guided souls through the underworld. The idea of death as a guide or a psychopomp leading souls to the afterlife is a common thread in many traditions. Thanatos was depicted as a winged spirit or a peaceful young man. Thanatos wasn't a malevolent figure, but rather a guide to the afterlife, especially when death came naturally. His Roman counterpart was Mors. In Egyptian mythology, Anubis, with his jackal head, was not a harbinger of death, but a guide through the afterlife, conducting souls through the underworld and overseeing the weighing of the heart ritual. Hindu traditions, Yama, the god of death, rides a buffalo and carries a lasso to pull souls from their bodies. He rules over Naraka, the underworld, judging the dead. Norse mythology, the Valkyries chose who died in battle, leading souls to Valhalla. Additionally, Hel, Hel, the goddess of the underworld, presided over those who died of illness or age, representing a more passive form of death. Then there's Celtic beliefs. The Banshee didn't cause death, but served as a harbinger, wailing to signal impending doom. The Celts also had Ankou, Ankou, a skeletal figure in Brittany folklore who collected souls with his chart. During the Middle Ages in Europe, the image of the Grim Reaper as we know it began to take shape. The Black Death, which killed an estimated 25 million people in the 14th century, heavily influenced the imagery of death. Artists began to depict death as a skeletal figure in dark robes, often wielding a scythe, a tool associated with harvesting, symbolizing the reaping of souls. So why a skeleton? The choice of a skeleton to represent death is no accident. The skeletal figure was a stark reminder of human mortality. Flesh decays, but bones endure, making the skeleton a powerful symbol of what remains after life has faded. The Reaper's hollow eye sockets and bony hands became an eerie yet strangely familiar image of the inevitability of death. The scythe as a symbol. The scythe itself is a crucial part of the Grim Reaper's image. As an agricultural tool used to cut down crops, it created a visual metaphor for harvesting souls. It suggested that death was just not this random force, but a necessary and natural part of life's cycle. The Reaper, like a farmer, had a job to do, one that was impartial and inevitable. The Grim Reaper has become a staple in modern media, from cartoons to horror films, often portrayed with a dark sense of humor. The Reaper appears in everything from Terry Pratchett's Discworld novels, where he is a somewhat misunderstood character, to the darkly comedic Dead Like Me, where Reapers have everyday jobs. Even family-friendly shows like The Simpsons and Adventure Time have included their own takes on this ancient figure. In horror, the Reaper is often an omen of death or the embodiment of the end. The Final Destination franchise, for an example, uses the unseen hand of death as a force that cannot be cheated. These modern interpretations show how flexible and enduring the Grim Reaper's image truly is. What's fascinating is how the Grim Reaper often changes with societal attitudes towards death. In times of plague or war, the Reaper might be depicted as a cruel and relentless figure. In more philosophical or introspective works, the Reaper can take on a more nuanced role as a guide or even a comfort at times. So as we can see in most of this folklore, in most of this mythology, however they depicted death in whatever kind of way, a lot of times it was like a Grim Reaper type of figure. But in pretty much all the cases, this figure didn't cause death. It just came to get your soul to take it wherever it may be going after that. So more often than not, death is what's called a psychopomp, a guide for the dead. And like I say, similar roles existed in various cultures. And you have the Charon, if I'm saying that right, the ferryman of Hades in Greek mythology who transported souls across the river Styx. You got Hermes, the Greek god who guided souls to the underworld. You've got the Wild Hunt in Northern European folklore. A spectral leader would ride through the skies with a horde of spirits collecting the dead. And even in Christianity, you have the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse from the book of Revelation. One of the horsemen rode a pale horse, symbolizing death. This association added a biblical and apocalyptic dimension to death's image. Yeah, that's the crazy thing about humans and really everything. We all die. It's inevitable. It doesn't matter if you're rich or poor, strong or weak. I have written down an idea for another essay-type video about good death versus bad death through history. You've heard in movies several times like, it was a good death, or it was a bad death. He's going to be, sent the wrong way. His soul will never get to heaven or Valhalla, or, there's a lot of different ways it twists in movies and stories. But so many cultures throughout time have envisioned death as just a transfer of one place to another, a journey, not an ending. But it is a fascinating subject, and we're still studying and thinking about and contemplating what happens when we die. We have near-death experiences, ghost stories, philosophical debates on it, but we're curious about it, but the questions may never be answered. It does seem we cannot pierce the veil that death draws across our existence. We try to understand death. We try to defy death. But those things really just reveals not only our fear of the unknown, but also our hope that something lies beyond. So the Grim Reaper, among all these other characters through time and cultures and mythology, it's our hope that something lies after death, lies beyond death. We don't want to die. We don't want it to be the end. We want there to be something else. And the addition to something, say, like heaven in Christianity, that all our loved ones will be there. That's comforting. That's much more comforting than to say, when it ends, it ends. But I do think death's mystery is perhaps what gives life its meaning, pushing us to seek purpose, connection, legacy before our time runs out. But we have seen throughout history, the earliest days of humanity, the loss of a loved one has been profound and devastating. There's archaeological evidence like ancient burial sites that has flowers, tools, jewelry, gold, and even other people buried with them that were sacrificed at the time of this important person's death, so that not only will they have these tools and riches and things in the afterlife, but they have some helpers as well. So it does seem in many ways that ultimately it was losing that person that you cared so much about that inspired humanity to seek answers beyond the grave. So many cultures have created this rich tapestry of myth, belief, and tradition, and throughout cultures all over the world, those traditions still comfort us today. The Grim Reaper has traveled a long road from ancient myth to modern icon. Whether portrayed as a terrifying specter or a witty Sith-wielding guide, this figure remains a powerful symbol of life's fragility and the mystery of what comes after. So what do you think? Is the Grim Reaper a force to fear or just another part of life's cycle? Let me know in the comments. I'll join you there. This is James, and I'm out. And as always, stay tuned for more dead stuff.